distinguished participants, my co-speakers, and friends. I think to start with, first of all, I must thank the organizers to have a physical event like this, the way she said, after 2 years, after 1 year, when we are coming out of our, confined workplaces, home, now you start feeling better, So I must thank them and also congratulate them for having such an apt topic, like fintech and the need for innovation and all those things, I think there cannot be any better time for a innovation and especially in the fintech area than this because of what happened in the last 2 years. That is something, a compulsion which, as I said, each organization has gone through, See, besides this presentation, I'll share with you some of my experience while working in some of my last assignments, I started my career, it's almost now 30 years now. I spent a lot of time in revamping the whole health sector, I'll tell you a very small incident because that related to the innovation and that how it has been recognized last year. This was, early 2005, 2006. In the country, there was a very low coverage of BCG, right? So I have been inducted as an expert into the health sector to advise, Secretary Health how to improve the overall health finances and all those things, right? And at those times, so some of the organizations, like I must give due credit to the leadership at that point of time. They said, you just think out of box and think, why in spite of low cost, in spite of everything, this coverage is not happening up, right? And, after going through, a committee was formed where I was heading it and all those things. We said, you have one process, lacuna, where it says that, the loss, cannot be so much. So let's say a vial contain 10 doses, right? So loss cannot be 20%. So unless until there is 8th child to be vaccinated, there is not, the vial will not be open up. So I said the price of the vial and the price of the package is hardly anything. It's very cheap. So make one vial, one session policy. And immediately, from 60%, it went up to 95%. And in the COVID, one of the research says that because India has a higher BCG level, so it has a lower mortality as compared to the other country, So my point was, 15 years back, a small process innovation which was done, how it has translated into, saving of the, lives of many of the citizens, and that has been recognized also. We got call. This is how it has been done. So my point is, even if you are a finance professional, we always, we try to step into the shoes of operational guys, product guys. These are the things where our activities start. Finance is just the numbers, Finally, that is not what, I think chartered accountants are meant for, They have to be good product manager, they have to be good process manager, they have to be good, technology guy, right? Now, ultimately, the number will fall into place, So then, I joined UIDAI with Nandan in the initial lot, and then we thought, it was a framework that how the structure should be built up. See, at that point of time, the challenge was, initially, suppose if we engage with the vendor, there should not be lock-in with the vendor, The technology should be open source. It should be scalable. It should be very cost effective. These were the three, basically, the objective the team had in the mind, And you see the Aadhaar infrastructure, how it has been rolled out. If I share with you how much it cost to the government, is hardly peanut, It's hardly peanut, right? And it's scalable, expandable. We don't have any vendor lock-in, Right from the beginning, it was seen that when this gets scaled up to 1 billion, so some of the vendor can start, dictating their own terms. So that was the things, how At that point of time, right from technology operations, a very successful program was designed. Then, briefly I'll say I joined the NPCI to have the retail payment system, I was there for almost 10 years, That was a very interesting journey, because we were doing something which no country in the world has done it, and some of our bank's colleagues are there, Visa, Masters are in place, and how can you have your own card system and own UPI, and, and see the success stories now with the NPCI, the achievements are before everyone, And then how this whole retail payment went into this Jandhan, DBT, means the point is, in all these, and then I joined the Paytm, that comes the customer side, and that too as a scalable, at a scale. So my point is that right now, if you want to build any, any infrastructure, that has to be ubiquitous, scalable, and at a very, very minimum price, because nobody can charge price, right? That is, I think, all as a finance professional, we must keep into the mind. Now, when it comes to, I think I'll come on the topic, especially the, the future of the work. Future of the work, I'll say, the workforce and the workplace, all three things have got changed in the last 3 years, and I'll share with you some of the studies and some of our own experience, how we have done it, and it is being successful, So I say Corona was a pandemic, it should not come again, but it was a blessing in disguise because all innovations happen when some crises are there, So probably those things which could have been done in next, 10 years have got done in 2 years' time, because first of all, change of mindset, The change of mindset would never have been there. Now work from home is a very, very, acceptable norm, right? So earlier you can't accept that work from home is an acceptable norm, So, so as far as future of work is concerned, I thought I'll start with this slide so that every one of you will feel hum bhi piche nahi hai, aa rahe hain aage बढ़ ke. So India is now almost at more than 100, billionaires. The first one is of course the America and the China, and the Europe altogether is around 100, 140, 150. So this is just to have you a feel good factor. See, this slide I have taken, I found it very interesting to share with you. This is a McKinsey slide, which says, there are top disrupting technologies which are there, right? And if you see, whether it's a renewable energy, whether it's a, mobile internet, internet or IoT, there are all those. I think I'll not go into detail in these because my co-speakers are there who will, deal this topic in detail. But, in our organization, especially because I have been from the, the Fintech and especially from the payment domain, I'll share some of the data, how it all happened and how it all transformed the organization. I think without all these things, we would not be able to achieve those scale, whether in NPCI or whether in Paytm, If you see this, the number, you just ignore the number because this is not an updated slide, but where the money is flowing, And if you see in the Fintech, the maximum money is flowing, of course, lending, and lending is the latest catch-up, right? Obviously, RBI ka us pe nazar pad gaya hai, so that is another thing. But payments are the top one which got the maximum, maximum deals, right, in terms of amount, Amount is not up to date, but I am just giving you a, idea where the, the overall money is flowing, This next slide is just to give you, because first 2, 3, 4 slide I have just done on the payment side, and then we'll come on the place of work, how it is connected with that. If you see, this is a very nice slide, from which says that digital transactions value in 2021, in trillion side. So, digital transaction, there are three, person are there, merchants are there, and the government is there, So if you see under this diagram, the maximum amount is, B2B transaction or business to person, very minimal from, G2P. G2P we say government to person, P2P is also, about 0.8 trillion, about, 0.8 trillion. P2M is, person to merchant, P2G is person to government, so the maximum bulk is B2B and B2P, which is where the maximum innovation and maximum, activity is happening, See, this is the slide, which I would like to spend some time, India is one of the largest growing fintech market with market opportunity of almost around 1.3 trillion by 2025, See the left hand side, if you see the digital payment market, how it has grown, right? And why I'm sharing with you, this will have an impact on, what kind of a workforce in the workplace, in the overall, the work environment to be, So this is where the future skill have to be, right? So if you see from the left hand side, I think I'll just, yeah. See from 1920 till now, in the last 3 years, it has gone up almost by 3x. In the next 4 years, it will go another 4x, So see the tremendous, increase in the transaction volume. This is in the billion, And if you see the transaction value, it's almost 10x in 7-8 years time, from 42 trillion to almost 385 trillion, And if you further go down, the UPI and the various payment modes are there, various use cases are there, which is enabling it, There's a UPI, there is no user charges, still it's growing, See, the focus area, why I've said, why I've shared this data, because the focus area for us in the next 2 to 3 years is, the enhanced customer experience, Like, see, our organization with 25 million merchant, with more than 75 million daily active customer, right? And with almost 100,000 business correspondent, right? Which is, with this kind of a thing, you need a very robust customer experience, because the size of the transaction is very small. You need the customer need to be attended, So that is one of the focus area, where zero touch payment are expected to gain traction in future as they reduce the waiting time and can be used for both online offline. One of my friend who is heading the DMart, I approached him, why don't you put this kind of an instrument, payment mode. He said, Sanjay, if this payment mode takes 8 seconds, I can't afford 8 seconds your customer to just, wait for 8 seconds for payment. It has to be less than 2 seconds, 3 seconds. See, this is a demand which is coming, He says, we have, the payment system should be, the payment mode should be that it should not take more than 2 to 3 seconds, Right now it's taking 8 to 10 seconds, So that is what the merchant is expecting, this is where one has to go. Second is IoT, basically is a connected device embedded with payment support. Multiple payment mode will emerge as a next area of exploration, I think all organizations are working towards it, And then leveraging AI, ML, See, we in our organization has leveraging this a lot, In fact, we have a robotic processes also. You just imagine our organizations where almost millions of transactions happen every day. Our operations department conduct minimum 45 recon every day, right? Recons, right? Because we cannot move to the next day without any reconciliations happen, Then in the finance department also, what we have done, we have a small IT team, with a skill set, 2-3 people are there, because the finance guys tell them that I need this kind of a report, I need this, and they manage with the data, And every day separately, that is a second check. The finance team does 28 recons every day. 28 recons means there are so many products, there are so many services. So my point is, we cannot afford to move to the another day without these millions of transactions get reconciled, right? So that's very important. So operations and the finance as a backup of this maker and checker, every day finance does almost 28 recon every day. This is not possible. So we have a robotic processes. We have, this artificial intelligence. So all those things are there. Without that, this is not possible manually. Some of the team came and we have made a rule. I have made a rule before introducing any product and services, please ensure that all this back-end process, how it get automated, So some of the guy came and said, sir, मैंने 6 लोगों का approval ले लिया है, ये 6 लोग manage करेंगे. I said, nothing doing, 6 के आप 15 लोगों का approval लो, ultimately it will add to the cost, So first, as product introduction is important, right, it is also important that your back-end processes should get automated at the same time, But it's not because it takes manpower. It is because it is prone to fraud. It is prone to risk. Because I don't know, आप पीछे से कुछ उसमें change कर दें और पता लगे कि उसमें siphon off हो जाए. So as a CFO, we can't rely on, the manual processing of all this data. It has to be automated processes, So leveraging artificial intelligence solutions to analyze, especially the customer experience, we have a very robust CLM, which gives a targeted offer, fraud management, loyalty points, all those things are there which we manage, even the automated operational activities using ML, I've shared with you this how we are bringing value to the organization. And then comes the DLT, right? DLT is primarily, the smart contracts or to bring more efficiency to the existing project for transaction settlement and all those things. So my point is, we are at present, we are, as in the organization, we are doing all this and we are trying to improvise further with the newer and newer technology, because the payment is such a space where within payment, there is no revenue, you can't earn the revenue, right? UPI is free of cost, otherwise entire sector is, there is a lot of competition. The only way is to reduce cost, bring efficiency, reduce cost. That's the only way one can survive in the industry. And I think this is how the overall efficiency has been brought into the organization. See, I think you have seen the last 250 years, how the various, the nature of the work has changed, from mechanization to mass production to automation and to finally, now this is a, the cloud, cyber, physical, Internet of Things and network, So we are in fact, the fourth industrial revolution we are, and the more and more we are going and more complexity it is bringing. As I said, that Corona, I read this quote, so I said I must reproduce here, changes that many of us had predicted would happen in over a decade, instead, happen in a span of weeks, the changes of mindset, changes of work culture, changes of, the technology requirement, probably that would have taken many years, which has done in weeks' time, in one of the organization I'll not name, in Teams meeting, annual review with the chairman, they said, the team asked, sir, we want to introduce flexible hours, or work from home. So the chairman said, yeah, you have a work from home on Saturdays and Sundays, right? So that was a stated this thing. And now, that organization, my colleague was telling, is the first one to move to the, work from home concept, because they know what the benefits are, you can have any skill set, at your place. Why it need to be in Delhi or Bombay, it can be anywhere, right? This is the old way and new way of, future of work. But underlying is cost efficiency and productivity still matters, People and technology must be integrated to respond to the current and evolving employee expectation. This is very important. I'll see you, various organizations, how these are taking it up in the next slide. redefine the disruptive initiative, and amplify collective intelligence. I think this is probably the crux of the whole, the workplace environment is. See, this is very important. I said the purpose, potential, and perspectiveness, embedding technology and the humanity of the workforce is very important. There can be three type of organizations. That organizations, which that does not talk about the purpose, but just embedded meaning into every aspect of the work every day. Where these the humanity or the individuality part is more and the technology part is the less. The second type of the organization is that designed and organized to maximize what human capable are thinking or creating and doing the world of the machines. So probably the technology part, reinvention, all those things are there. Obviously the humanity part is the security aspect is there. The third type of the organization is where I have cited one of the incident of 15 years back, where the leader have said it encourages the the future. You just think out of box, and bring some solution, right? So I think probably I was fortunate enough to get that kind of an environment, an organization that encourages, embraces the future orientation, asking not to just to optimize, but think of the future, think create value for tomorrow's. So this is probably all of us have to see that which part of the various organizations we are in and how to take it from left to right. So what we have learned, so some of the studies I have captured here. It says that by end of 2022, remote work will represent 35% of the employees. 2 years back it was 17%, and knowledge workers worldwide is more than 50%, up from 25%. So there's a big shift. It's not only in India but everywhere. It's a work from anywhere concept is fast catching up. And I think especially in the knowledge industry, the companies and senior management has also felt that there is a lot of associated benefit out of it, right? In 20, and if I see, the below one, in India and China, it's roughly 28 and 30%, In US, it's about 53%, So it's very interesting slide that worldwide how the work culture is moving, And see, work from home doesn't mean that there is a less work, Work from home means there is a 24 hours work, right? Your boss can call you even on Saturday, Sunday, or even at 11 o'clock, So that is the flip side of work from home, right? But still, you organization, you save a lot of time, a lot of commutation and all those things. So what coming next, The next coming is, especially, this is very interesting that right now 25% of the digital workers use some kind of a virtual employee assistance on a daily, by end of the year. This is something, the data shows. The point is, by 2025, 50% of the workers will need reskilling, because automation will displace minimum 85 millions of jobs, but it will create, more than that, 97 million, or you can say 1 billion new roles, will emerge adapted to this dynamic. So my point is, reskilling, upskilling, that's the only mantra now, You can't just stick to this, I'll say even CA fraternity will get obsolete after a few years, right, if they don't have an attestation function, So the guys have to come out of their traditional work or, this thing, and probably, I totally concur with this kind of a finding, So if 85 million jobs will go, another 1 billion jobs will come, but it will be of different reskilling, So how do we prepare ourselves for that? This is a $1 million question for all professionals who are sitting here. I think we have to find an answer to this, So as I said, there are three aspects of, in any organization for future of work, One is space, another is the culture or the workforce, and the third is the work, the work, workplace, and the workforce, So workplace, is totally changing, right? It's a total, I think I'll say I've visited few years back, about 7, 8 years back, Singapore, to see some of the workspace facility. I think totally connected, I can't think of, obviously that cost much. So they have been, companies have been operating worldwide, and people are just, and it is felt that, the people are sitting across the table, and this is all what the digitized connectivity brought to them, and now it is coming to the India also, So the space, the proper connected space, secure environment, and independence of, of place of time, this is probably how the space will, the workspace will fold in future, And from a workforce point of view, the talent acquisition, development, retention, scaling, upskilling, this is the HR role, which have to be a very dynamic role in future. And and when I say work means processes. The process is operations part, or the the data part that need to be automated. So I think these are the three areas which we need to, which every organization has to sit and discuss in detail how they want to adopt this. So I said, this is simply what I have discussed. There is an unprecedented opportunity to understand the future of work, what it is meant to businesses, industries, economies, and individual. So work, workforce, and workplace. So work means activities more to be performed, and technology more to be applied to produce the outcome. The workforce, various type of new skill set. Probably organizations have to tie up with academic institutions, on a regular basis for upskilling and reskilling kind of a thing. And the workplace, I have said, it's a physical design and technology, and which has to be secured also, because the new kind of cyber threats are there. So cyber security and information security, that is, without compromising that, probably we'll have to design the workspace in that. And the last two slides, some of the key questions are, and probably what is the final take from this. As an industry leader, what changes can you already identify in your industry? Probably these are some of the questions we have to ask, find the answer ourselves. What does your organization stands for, Can the current and the prospective employee recognizing the value? Or can these value turn into a compelling part of employer brand? I think this is very important, See, in all my previous organization, there has been some connectivity of the worker, junior most worker is working, he can connect itself, what is the final outcome, Let's say like in my current organization, we have, we want to reach to the 500 million people, right? In my previous organization, touch every Indian by one product or another, So guy who is working even in the CTS or even in any of the payment product, he knows ki somebody in the village might be using this product, right? So some kind of, the connect of the junior most employee with the employer brand is must, to create a sense of belonging, Do you have the metrics in place to enable optimal performance? How can you most effectively encourage the staff to use technology, seamless integrated tool, and automation with this? See, right now what happens, we are doing automations, but these automations are in silos. Probably, we'll have to look into end-to-end processes, which is what the final aim of the automation is. And is your processes and protocols that enable or disable these employees, without compromising the compliances, You have long processes, it doesn't enable necessarily, So but the last is very important, without comprising the compliances, And the last slide is 5 takeaways to consider, which I think, every organization has to set clear goals to achieve around the future of the work in short, medium, and long term, around job creation, quality, readiness, and the access, Probably these are the HR and the senior leadership team has to decide this, Also understand and map out the future jobs, future skill, and emerging within the industry, This is also very important. Identified innovative approach to support workers, focused on enhancing resiliency, adaptability, and and equity. Support resident access for remote work option within and beyond geography boundaries. Actually, this in my current organization has paid very well. Right? We can get all kind of skill set sitting in UP, Bihar, any part of the country, and working for the company. Reimaging partnership, this I have said earlier also, with higher education and non-profit to create additional reskilling and upskilling. See, in NPCI, we had a lot of issues of not getting the enough skilled resources, and then we tied up with various entities, various higher education institution, and made compulsory various pedagogy and courses, and all those things are there. And now probably that serve as a the resource not only for the NPCI but for the entire banking industry. So I think these are the 5 takeaway, and I'll end with this and ready to take any question on this.